just remembered the conversation that we had when we met for the first time, when we were talking about how everyone loves talking about AI, whether they understand it or not. Just sprinkle AI into every conversation
Yes.
that they may have. And I think this is the problem lately with AI, that companies and product people as well. And when I say product, I mean tech and product managers and engineers and data scientists and etc. are implementing AI just for the sake of implementing AI, and people say that
Right.
they are implementing AI, but very often they are not thinking about the problems they are solving, because I keep repeating technology is not the end result, it's an enabler of whatever you are trying to achieve. And very luckily, WellX is not doing that, is not sprinkling AI on top of everything that we are selling to our investors and customers and etc. Currently, we're using AI in for automating part of the processes and communication between us and some legacy systems of our insurance partners. We're using it as a chatbot for some basic customer interactions. However, we do have um, a lot of plans in the context of machine learning, NLP, obviously generative AI, but risk modeling that is AI driven as well. We want to use it for use cases of AI doctors, AI symptoms checker, some personalized, let's say, AI wellness coaching, and identifying, using predictive modeling to identify chronic disease patients that we can enroll and help them manage their conditions throughout their lifetime. So there's many use cases that we are trying to do and we will be doing in the future. It just, we are very sensible and modest in the way we are approaching AI. We are focused on solving user problems and delivering value for them and for our customers as well. And maybe it's an AI is a solution. Maybe it is not. But um, in a day-to-day sort of work, all of these very appealing use cases are there. But my favorite use case is actually just automating boring stuff that we do all day long.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Disruption Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey through the ever-evolving world of digital transformation. In each episode, we explore the latest trends, strategies, and insights that are reshaping industries and driving innovation. Whether you're a business leader, technologist, or simply curious about the future, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we deep dive into the transformative power of technology and its impact on businesses, society, and our daily lives. Get ready to unlock the secrets to success in the digital age. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to the Digital Disruption Podcast. Today we are joined by Sejla Vatres, Principal Product Lead at WellX. Sejla, thank you so much for being a guest today. We're happy you're here. Would you mind just giving a bit of a personal introduction and a professional background about your current and recent job roles so everybody gets a chance to know you better?
Sure. Thank you, Patrick. My name is Sejla. I've been in product for, well, now almost 10 years. Wow. During this time, I worked in B2B, B2C, B2B2C products across different industries, from education, event tech, different types and stages of the company as well. I worked mostly in European countries and European companies until I moved to Middle East 4 years ago now. I moved here to work at Mosafer, which is part of Sira Group, one of the largest travel companies in Middle East. But you can say that recently I made a little switch from making travel dreams come true to making people healthier, as I took a role at WellX as a principal product lead. WellX is a digital insurance that is focused on prevention first. So yeah, so far it's been fun, but thank you so much, guys, for having me here on this podcast. I'm looking forward. I hope it's going to be as much fun as it was on the initial call, which was like a preparation for this podcast. So I'm looking forward.
I know we were kind of bummed we didn't record that actually. That was such a great conversation. We were like, this should have been the podcast, but here we are.
Yeah,
We'll do take two, and it'll be just as much fun and just as interesting. So,
I'm sure it
um,
will be.
but thanks for that background. Really looking forward to today's conversation. And when you said you moved to the Middle East for work, so you're based out of Dubai, is that correct?
Yes, correct. I'm here in
All right,
Dubai.
so you're in the heart of lots of challenging and disruptive things happening around the region. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time to be here. I know Dubai had its time. It's still very active around here, but what is happening in
Absolutely.
neighboring countries as well in Saudi Arabia, so many disruption happening. So it's really exciting being here, especially being here in product and tech scene as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Saudi Arabia is so interesting, right? It's like the digital transformation happening like at the scale of a country and in a very short period of time. It's quite amazing. Yeah. It's- every time I go back there, it's a different place, it feels like. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
right. Like Mosafer is a Saudi company, right? So I used to go almost every month, and since the first time I went to the last time, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and going there on Thursday as well, it's every time there's something new happening. Every time there's a change
Totally.
that is very, very noticeable. It's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. My colleague took me to a place. He said, I'm taking you to a really good breakfast place in Saudi. I said, okay, I love breakfast. So we went there, we walked through the door, and I said, I've been here before. He said, no, you haven't. And I said, yes, I have. I said, the original one is in Santa Monica, California. And
Oh wow!
he said, no, you're lying. I said, no, I'll show you. And I was right. And yeah, so that was also kind of a fun
So
surprise.
fair to
Yeah,
say, you didn't get the authentic Saudi experience.
that's right. That's right. But I got the authentic Santa Monica experience in Saudi Arabia, which was also
There you
surreal.
go.
So, yeah,
That's an experience.
exactly. So, we talk a lot about disruption on this podcast. Sometimes it's with a little bit tongue in cheek, but also we are very interested in the way people are sort of changing in different industries, the way digital is enabling different things for different kinds of industries and companies. I think it's safe to say that you're working for a disruptive company now in the kind of health and wellness space and insurance space. So, I guess what is disruption actually about? If you make it all about the tech, you're kind of doing it wrong. And so, how do you do disruption right?
Yeah, that's a strong start to the podcast conversation. I can tell you what disruption is not, and it's not using just the latest technology for the sake of using the latest technology. I think this is a very common misconception. People like to think that they're disrupting, and
Yeah.
therefore this misconception. Um, for me, when it comes to companies, fields, industries that are stuck sort of in this cycle of inefficiency where they're not meeting the needs of users the way the user want them to be met, right? Because users evolved, they just those in the industries didn't. I think what disruption is taking a step back and asking ourselves, like, if we're starting from scratch, what would be the ideal world, the ideal product, the ideal industry, right?
Yeah.
And it's a big idea. It's a big concept to understand. But I think disruption is as much about execution as it is about these big ideas. So the outcome of this output, maybe of this thinking, should be products that are built in a way that once users start using it, they think, why it wasn't always this way, right? And this
Yeah.
is what means real disruption. Everything else is just it's theater. It's not disruption. It's not even a real change.
Yeah, yeah. I always talk about shiny objects, and
Yes.
most of them are just distractions, right?
Yeah,
But if you
exactly.
have, I think one of the things I picked up on what you said is like you have to have some real use case in mind, or you have to be solving some real problem in a way that maybe people haven't thought of before, right?
Exactly.
And I love that image of when after somebody starts using this product, they go, why wasn't it always like this, right? That's such a great image for like something that really is disruptive. It's
Mhm.
like Wow, I didn't even know this existed, but now I feel like I can't live without this because it solves something in a unique way.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, exactly. Can
and
you
how would
imagine
you?
your life? Sorry, can you imagine your
No,
life
please.
without ChatGPT now or Gemini or something like that? It sounds very overprivileged, but it's actually true. I cannot, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's making a big difference. I have um I'm a bit of a techno pessimist in some ways. So, but I know what you mean in the sense of like, maybe it's because I'm old, but I think that way about Google still, right? It's like how many times a day does your average person just do a Google search? But I totally know what you mean. Like these different AI tools are becoming so embedded in the way people do business every day, or even retrieve information as a consumer. Right? Yeah, you're 100%. It's like it's not
Apps,
going back. It's not going backwards. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
It's not possible. That's the
yeah.
real case of disruption, all of these things.
Absolutely, 100%. And in terms of, I guess maybe tying it to your current role, is how is that, like how does that translate into real change in, say, in the health insurance and health and wellness space? What are you maybe doing that's kind of most meaningful and disruptive, like in a I guess from a totally practical sense for your industry?
Mm. So WellX is this combination of insurtech and health tech with a wellness component as well. And for the longest time, insurance has been a very legacy industry, right? Very boring industry. And it's been considered like a necessary evil. You
Mhm.
just buy it and you're just hoping that you will never have to use it again, right?
Right, right,
And this is
right.
something that needs disruption. So I was talking about taking a step back and thinking what the ideal world is. And I think founders of WellX asked themselves a similar question. And they asked, okay, what would happen if the insurance actually wanted to put an active effort to make you healthy and on top of it even rewarded you for it? And this is something that we are doing here at WellX. Now, practically, how it translates to product itself and technology around it is that, for example, from the user experience perspective, we are really focused on the seamless engagement piece, both active and passive ones. So we allow users to connect their wearables and their devices in health platforms like Apple Health or Google, Whoop, Fitbit, you name it. And with those, we track every movement. Yeah, nice. We track every movement that they have, right? We track their sleep, we track their recovery in case of Whoop, we track their activity, steps, and so on and so forth. At the same time, we are trying to motivate them actively to make more movement in the context of all of these challenges that we are having, because this is B2B2C product. So we're motivating them to engage in a healthy competition with their colleagues through these challenges, be first on the leaderboard. We offer a couple of features in the telemedicine space where we offer doctor consultation, a very convenient way to do mental health sessions, something called Care Concierge, where they can get anywhere in the world a very helpful support from our nurses, where they can pick the right hospital, identify their symptoms, find the right doctor, and so on, so and so forth. So this is the active engagement part. But for whatever they do, they get rewarded with something called X coins. This is, think of it,
Okay.
in-app currency of WellX. That later these coins can be translated into real-world cashback value, because they can get, let's say, $20 off Amazon, or 10% off at noon, which is like the big e-commerce. Think of it as a Amazon for Middle East platform as well. So this is what we're trying to do from the experience and tech and product perspective, but from the business perspective, it actually works, because think of it this way: the more people move, the more reward that they get, but also they get more healthier, right? Good for them. At
Yes.
the same time, the healthier people are, less they're using their insurance. the less they're using insurance, less claims, which means insurance is more, let's say, financially efficient. So that's what makes it like a really scalable product. It's a win-win, user win, insurance win, and I actually like to think that that's how we are redefining what insurance should be.
Nice, I love it. It's I mean, it's great. I mean, there's no, I mean, certainly in the U.S. market, it's no surprise like Americans have been on a trajectory of less and less sort of healthy, lifestyles, as we've all become more sedentary and all these things. So I think, and I mean, it's a proven fact, right? It's way easier to stay healthy than to get healthy after you're sick, right? So I think anything that is encouraging people to remain healthy versus fix bad problems once they arrive, I think that's awesome. I love it. And I mean, it's right. And there is a selfish motivator on the side of the insurance, which is, it also makes, as you said, it's more efficient to serve more people with insurance if they're not, if they're at the healthier end of the spectrum than the sick end of the spectrum. That's just kind of a no-brainer there. So yeah, it's a win-win.
I mean, there is this concept of doing good by doing well. Which I think it applies here. Yes, we are trying to make world a better place. We are trying to make people healthier, but we are doing business and doing well at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yeah, I've heard, we had a guest recently, Mala, and he likes to talk about the virtuous cycles, right? And I think that's another good one, a good example of a virtuous cycle, right? Yeah. So that's cool. I love it. I mean, I anytime we can move from sort of theory to practical, like truly disruptive and I mean, there is also, I guess, not only a disruptive component to this, but a component of like, you have to be a relatively like digitally sophisticated organization to drive, seamless customer experiences, to use data appropriately and responsibly. You're also in an industry that's regulated compared to other industries. So there's, you have to have all of that. I guess you do, even though it's not about the technology, you have to have the appropriate technology and data infrastructure and integrations all in place to even like enable this, right? So
yeah, 100%. I mean, luckily for us, we have a really world-class team of engineers. We have a really great team of designers, of engagement managers, and all of the great work that our sales teams are doing on the side of brokers, companies, and etc. So for us, technology is an enabler, and so far it's been serving us really well, enabling us to do some really nice and cool things.
Nice. And as the person kind of directly leading from a product development standpoint, how are you as a leader helping ensure that a disruptive business model kind of translates into a successful platform, a successful revenue opportunity, et cetera?
Yeah. So the first thing that I always preach basically is user discovery, user obsession, right? Because there's no amount of technology or AI or you name it that can be enough if you are not confident that you're really serving a user problem. So one of the first thing, and this is what I did it in WellX's as well, when I reach any company or when I start working on any project, is to set up the proper user discovery. I like to follow something that is called continuous discovery habits by Teresa Torres, and it basically promotes continuous discovery with the continuous delivery. So think of it as not, you are doing user discovery, which means user interviews and qualitative research and etc. You're not doing it as a project. It's not like on-demand basis. It's a continuous process that you're continuously delivering. It's not like you put the entire team of engineering on pause for a month or two or something like that. So we're doing the same thing with continuous discovery. And so far, we are just kickstarting this process in WellX's, but it served us really, really well in Mosafer. And Mosafer back then was one of the maybe 3-4 companies doing this in the entire Middle East. I'm super happy to hear that this is something that is picking up in this part of the world now. But I think for me as a product lead, this is the first time. This is the first thing that I'm doing, and everything else comes in place with it. Like obviously data obsession as well. Like
Nice.
This is the basis, especially for things that are as complex as the business that WellX's is in. You need a proper data infrastructure and data processes as well to support all of the great ideas that you're getting from your actual users.
Nice. I'm glad to hear you're data obsessed. That's awesome. Because
Product managers, we need to be data obsessed.
Yes, I think yes. Everybody in this space should be more data obsessed. I love it. Can you just because I'm not a product person by nature, can you just for the listeners, can you say that concept again of the continuous discovery and also the person whose work you were citing, just so people, if they want to go check that out themselves?
Continuous discovery habits and the work of Teresa Torres.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Highly recommend. There is a book. There's plenty of resources on YouTube as well. And so far, the team that I've been introducing this to was super psyched to start working on it. So,
yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I love different versions of. I mean, I'm a big proponent on the optimization side and the analysis and insight side. Continuous improvement is the only sort of like methodology that really, like, trying to hit home runs all the time just doesn't work. You have to like look for small opportunities all the time versus so
that's so nicely said. I agree.
Yeah, so that's great. I'm gonna go check that work out because I'm not familiar with her work, so I will check that out for sure. And I know you mentioned Mosafer, and I just wanted to talk about your travel and hospitality background a little bit too, because it's another arena in which user experience matters so much. Like ultimately, the product the person is buying is, at the end of the day, nothing more than an experience, right, of some kind or another, or how they, the process of how they get there. But still, ultimately, it's just an adventure or a journey of one kind or another. So, when it comes to digital, travel has been an extraordinarily exciting sector. Certainly some of the biggest, U.S. travel companies have been kind of at the forefront of usability and customer engagement and things. So, and then I guess, one of the areas I find most interesting, I've talked to several clients recently that are really trying to bridge that gap between digital and on-site or on-property experiences. Like, how do those seamlessly integrate? So I guess that's to say, in travel and hospitality, there's a lot of different components to consider. So in your travel and hospitality background, what were some of the most successful and disruptive initiatives that you worked on?
That's a very interesting question, especially that there's so many opportunities to be disruptive in travel industry, but I don't think anyone cracked it just yet. To in the last decade to do something that is truly disruptive. And even you spoke about user experience at some point. Travel is not cheap. It's something that is like an added value in your life that you are paying quite a high price for, right? So therefore, we as product people, we have even this responsibility to make this experience as nice as possible, as smooth as possible. During my time in Mosafer, I worked both on consumer-facing products and on B2B side of business. When it comes to the B2C side, we did some really nice initiatives on implementing the first user-generated content systems in Mosafer, which enable us for the first time in the history of the company to get some data points and to learn about our customers, things that we never knew before, to implement some cross-sell initiatives between our hotel booking platforms and flight booking platform. But I think the most, not disruptive for the industry, unfortunately, but disruptive for company maybe, was my work when I was leading product efforts for inbound tourism business units, which is basically two different companies, right? One is, think of your traditional destination management company that was unlucky to get started maybe just a few months before COVID. So fairly new. And then we have this religious tourism tour operator that is like almost 20 years old business that we have acquired that is operating on a very limited technology, very legacy technology system. You can just
Okay.
imagine. So you have that as a challenge, and also you have really high aspirations because we were partnering with the Saudi Tourism Authority and other relevant entities in Saudi Arabia to support Saudi Vision 2030. So very ambitious goals, a lot of limitations to work with.
Sure.
So there was obviously a digital transformation that we needed to do there in the context of connecting a couple of systems that different stakeholders were using, digitalizing part of the processes, automating part of the operations as well, and seamlessly integrating, you said it so nicely, online and offline experience, especially for inbound tourism where you are owning this entire journey on your
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
And implemented a lot of really good um, tech pieces, provided a bunch of data to sales and business teams in general for both of these businesses. But I think overall, what the results of this digital transformation was and why it was disruptive for the company, at least, was that we really managed to improve significantly the experience that customer had both while booking and on site on the destination itself. But also we have significantly improved operational efficiency of these two companies and managed to have significant impact on top line too. So
Oh,
I think
nice.
I would say that this is the most impactful work that I participated in there.
Nice. I think you bring up a really good point here too. Like, you need to use where your own company or organization is as the baseline, right? So, and you're trying to improve on something based on where you're at today. So, kind of understanding like a clear-eyed, honest assessment of like what is our level of digital maturity today and what are the opportunities to close those gaps. Because I mean there is the larger context, right? Like the Amazons of the world, the Netflix, like they change consumer expectations overall, right? They change the kind of the digital landscape of like what people think of as personalization, convenience, whatever. But you also are faced with where you are at today as a company in a particular industry, and there's always a room from like, okay, we're at step, you know, H, I, or J, and we want to get to step Z. There's always room to improve and change. So it's always, you're always in some ways competing against yourself to do better do better tomorrow than you are today. I love, that,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
you know what is funny? You said something interesting. You always need to compete with yourself, 100% sure. But you said something else before that, which is an honest assessment, which is not
yes.
always a lot of stakeholder management, all of different
Yeah.
approaches that you need to test and fail. Hopefully, often test and succeed as well. Because I
Yeah.
just see very different types of companies in different stages, different type of stakeholders. So yeah, this is something we should remember: honest assessment in order to be able to compete with yourself and others as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't sell our own services on this podcast, so I'm not trying to encourage anybody to do business with e-CENS in particular, but it is one of the reasons why having outside advisors, a kind of a trusted partner that's somewhat disinterested in what decision you ultimately make as a company, like having somebody to tell you, no, this is kind of what's possible, and this is where you're at today is
Yeah.
really
And
helpful.
also
Yeah.
like a very knowledgeable, capable outside
Mhm.
team that also
Yeah.
offers a very fresh perspective that maybe teams that are from the inside would appreciate coming from someone from the outside.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we have to today on this podcast, we have to talk about AI, right? Because it's on the tip of everyone's tongue, for better and for worse. As you said, like some of these things are here to stay. We're not going backwards. They're helpful. They make life more efficient. Every company is talking about it. Everything from generative AI, agentic AI. I mean, now you can hire. Apparently, you can hire agents now that are not even people. the kind of predictive modeling that certain kinds of ML enables, right? So I guess anything in your wheelhouse right now that's being driven by these technologies?
Of course, yeah, so many. I just remember the conversation that we had when we met for the first time, when we were talking about how everyone loves talking about AI, whether they understand it or not.
Right.
Just sprinkle AI into every conversation
Yes.
that they may have. And I think this is a problem lately with AI, that companies and product people as well. And when I say product, I mean tech and product managers and engineers and data scientists and etc. are implementing AI just for the sake of implementing AI. And
Right.
they could say that
Right.
they are implementing AI, but very often they are not thinking about the problems they are solving, because I keep repeating, technology is not the end result, it's an enabler of whatever you are trying to achieve. And very luckily, WellX is not doing that, is not sprinkling AI on top of everything that we are selling to our investors and customers and etc. Currently, we're using AI in for automating part of the processes and communication between us and some legacy systems of our insurance partners. We're using it as a chatbot for some basic customer interactions. However, we do have um, a lot of plans in the context of machine learning, NLP, obviously generative AI, but risk modeling that is AI driven as well. We want to use it for use cases of AI doctors, AI symptoms checker, some personalized, let's say, AI wellness coaching, and identifying, using predictive modeling to identify chronic disease patients that we can enroll and help them manage their conditions throughout their lifetime. So there's many use cases that we are trying to do and we will be doing in the future. It just, we are very sensible and modest in the way we are approaching AI. We are focused on solving user problems and delivering value for them and for our customers as well. And maybe it's an AI is a solution. Maybe it is not. But in a day-to-day sort of work, all of these very appealing use cases are there. But my favorite use case is actually just automating boring stuff that we do all day long. In insurance, that can be, I don't know, processing claims and processing quotes and etc. Because I really think that one of the biggest values that AI can bring is to enable us to do meaningful and not repetitive, mundane work.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's one of the best areas where AI really has made some strides that, you can point to, like, these are just objectively useful. Like, you can take things that are just mindlessly repetitive, and with the appropriate safeguards around,
Yeah.
around them, you can really kind of remove a great deal of just mundane work. I couldn't agree more. The U.S. is an interesting case, especially in the healthcare. I know recently Colorado, had passed a law around, similar to like privacy and consent regulations, but related to AI, and especially pertains to, any kind of organizations that are making like meaningful decisions about people's lives, providing insurance policies. Are you going to give somebody a loan or not? And, kind of building in, just ensuring that there are appropriate like safeguards for, kind of any biases built into the modeling. So it's going to be interesting to see the next couple of years how the whole regulatory landscape changes around this as well.
Especially in this part of the world. I mean, unfortunately, we are not there yet with the regulations as tight as the one, let's say, in Europe, and the data privacy ones in the relation to GDPR and etc. There is something similar coming in. Actually, it came in Saudi, but
Yes.
I think this part of the world still needs to do some catching up when it comes to this particular issue. So yeah, the best thing that I can say is that we should all just prepare for this moment, because it's definitely coming.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, I mean, especially if you're really using these technologies in ways that are decision making, I think at that point where it's not just automating processes, but you're actually like making decisions about people. It's good to have some kind of a framework in place that people can be assured. Yeah. I think Saudi Arabia, in some ways, on the privacy front, at least with the sort of like data requirements, is a little ahead of some countries actually at this point, where the requirements to keep data in country and things. It poses some challenges for obviously the big cloud infrastructure providers, but it's also interesting. They are taking seriously people's personal data and where it should reside. I love it.
Yeah, it should be a good thing.
Well, I have a question for you that's a bit more. We're going to go away from, I guess, the sort of technical and the product piece a little bit. And I just, you recently participated in a Women in MarTech event that e-CENS was directly involved with. We've heard really great feedback from everybody who participated in these events. They've been very popular. And I just was curious, for our listeners, not just, I guess, well, particularly for our women listeners, but also for men, as a woman working in tech, broadly speaking, what advice would you give women just getting started in technology and digital and related fields to kind of best set themselves up for success and career growth?
Yeah.
And then I guess, oh, sorry, Glenn, please.
No, please.
Oh, and I was just saying, and then as a woman working in Dubai and in the MENA region, anything particular about that?
Yeah, no, I love this question because there's something that I'm very passionate about. But before I go there, I just want to say thank you very much to e-CENS team. It was such a good event. Guys, we should just do it again. It was such a good, successful event. And I'm very happy to say that maybe the organizing team can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, I would say, an estimate maybe around 40%, if not even more, were men on this event. So this was not an event dedicated particularly to women. When it comes to women in technology, I don't think the advice would be different whether I'm giving this advice to women in Middle East or women in US or women in Europe, honestly. But what is different in this part of the world is just something that would be different across genders. It's just a little bit of more of a high context culture compared to, let's say, Europe. Like I used to work in a Dutch company, very low context. So things like that are just some small differences and cultural differences when it comes to operating business in different parts of the world. But when it comes to women specifically and women in technology, I'm very passionate about that. I am trying to get in touch with as many women as possible that are trying to especially break into this field. And my first advice would be to stay curious. I know that we all keep talking about continuously learning and upgrading our knowledge, our skill set. But what is a different thing nowadays, I feel, is that before we would say like continuous learning is for people who want to lead the future, but not anymore. It's just for people who want to catch up because that's how fast, especially technology field is evolving. So that would be for sure the first advice. The second advice would be to take space. Now, I don't mean only physically in these companies, obviously. I mean to take space in meetings, in discussions, because what is the worst thing that can happen? Like if your idea that you had, that you verbalized and communicated is good, then it deserves to be heard, right? And if it's not, probably half of the other ideas that were on the meeting were also good enough. So there's basically
join the club, right? Join the club.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just participate, play the game.
Yeah.
And third one would be to maybe communicate their impact. I think especially recently, visibility worth as much as capability of a person. And don't get me wrong, these are all of the things that I keep telling myself every day and keep reminding myself. But definitely, those would be three advices that I would give to women in technology.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, that's really helpful, I think. And not just, and probably advice that men could take as well. But I think I think it is particularly, given this kind of history of the field as a bit, with the exception maybe of marketing, having a very high prevalence of male both leadership and kind of delivery type folks. I think that's all really sound advice, and love that idea. Just take space, right? Like you're in the room for a reason, occupy it, be there and participate. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because I think it's important, and it's actually a very nice indicator that you said that this advice can be applied to men as well. And that's how it should be. It's just we are conditioned to believe some other things and consequentially to behave certain way, which definitely is not the case. I had some very interesting experiences with being the only woman in the entire startup, being the only woman in the entire product team, including data and designers and engineers and product managers. So yeah, and one is not better than the other. We just need to stay true to ourselves, work hard, stay curious, keep learning, and good results will come.
Nice. In the US, I don't know the other countries quite as well from a statistic standpoint, but like in the US, the higher ed, the changes in higher ed over the last decade are really staggering in terms of the percentage of majority of women graduating with 4-year and advanced degrees. So there's some demographic changes happening too. Yeah. So I'll be interesting another 10 years from now, like, is this conversation something totally different in terms of, but then of course, then you ask the question, like, how will that change in different industries and sectors and job roles. But it certainly is an interesting time from an educational standpoint, and the next generation of and upcoming workers. It's definitely skewing more female than male at this point in the US market, which is kind of quite interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think we're definitely living in a period in history where there is a big shift in society that is happening. Yeah. And I think it's going to have a lot of both positive and unfortunately negative effects as well that we're yet to see.
Totally. Yeah. I don't know if you follow anybody like Scott Galloway or any of those guys, but yeah, he kind of, he's obviously a bit of a vocal, like, hey, don't ignore young men and boys, but he's probably maybe one of the most vocal, but in a thoughtful way, not in a kind of a, oddly, not in a misogynistic kind of a way, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There are so many things that I don't agree with him.
Of course,
that's not particularly something that it's unpopular decision, unpopular opinion, because in the world we're trying to elevate women as much as possible and to empower them. He's saying, like, don't forget about little boys, about living, they're having identity crisis. But that's a completely different podcast.
Oh yeah, we go down lots of rabbit holes on this podcast. Yeah. Sorry, but to come back around to the question, I guess, and maybe I'm going to ask the question slightly differently than I originally asked it, and maybe the answer would be the same. But if you were to be giving advice to yourself 10 or 12 years ago, as you were starting, based on what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Oh yeah, I think it's a different question. I mean, of course, I would try to follow everything that I'm giving as advice now. That is for sure. But I feel like I have always been curious. I have always been very open and confident to give opinions and to participate in things. But the number one thing I would say is to pick when to listen, and that I would do differently, to pick when to listen and when not to listen to people. Like, I would gather myself with as many smart, capable, successful people as possible, and trying to just absorb everything that they are saying, and obviously filter what I need, what I don't need. But at the same time, I would not listen to the negative opinions, like how you should behave in startup versus how you should behave in a corporation, how you should behave as a woman in a company versus so many other things that are just, I would consider it as a noise that I would not listen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah. Being able to decipher who you should listen to and who you should not, or what information you should. I love that, having that discrimination of like, not everything everybody tells you is always useful or to your benefit. I love that that thought, especially when you're just coming up. I think that makes so much sense because you're just bombarded. Yeah, I love it. Well, Sejla, I want to be respectful of your time, and so I would love to just say I am so appreciative of the fact that you took the time at the end of your day to join our podcast today. I think the work that you're doing is dynamic and it is truly disruptive. You have a point of view on product and technology that anybody could benefit from hearing about. And so I just want to say thank you for joining the podcast today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a I had a lot of fun, as always is the case with the e-CENS team. So I'm looking forward to hear this episode and many others that you're about to release. Very good start
Great.
of the Digital Disruption podcast.
Awesome. And we'd love to have you back sometime. And I will also pass on that we need to have another Women in MarTech event because directly from your instructions I'll pass it on directly to our events team.
Yes, please. Dubai, Riyadh, you name it, we'll do it.
All right, perfect. Hopefully I'll be in the region next time and be able to participate as well.
Fingers crossed.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, bye-bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of digital transformation and gained valuable insights to help navigate the ever-changing landscape. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on our website, e-CENS.com, or connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for more exciting discussions on the forefront of digital innovation. Remember, the future is now, and it's time to embrace the power of transformation. Thanks for listening, and until next time.